UFC 288, Aljamain Sterling versus Henry Cejudo is this weekend. I'm going to give you a full card prediction and breakdown, starting from the early prelims to the main event. And without further ado, let's get right into this card. I think it's going to be super entertaining. I don't want to say that there's super high quality matchups on this card. Obviously, the top two are the very important ones. And then there's some pretty solid matchups in general, but I think this is going to be a really entertaining card in general. So I'm super excited for it. First off, on the bat, we have Daniel Santos versus Johnny Munoz Jr. Santos 10-2, 28 years of age, 67 inches of reach. Munoz 12-2, 30 years of age, 71 inches of reach. I'm going to go with Santos in this matchup. He kind of has that shoot box style. I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about, but Charles Oliveira trains out of there. You have Poliana Viana in the women's division. I think they have a couple other guys in the UFC now, but Daniel Santos, actually thought of one of them, but Nascimento, Alan Nascimento. They kind of have this style where, especially Daniel Santos, where he looks kind of like Charles Oliveira there. He just moves forward and just has a very unique kickboxing style. Just uses a lot of knees, uses a lot of kicks in general. Will just walk you down, take the punches with the chin, and then just start striking. They go crazy in that gym. For Johnny Munoz Jr., his last couple fights, Ludovic Sholinian is how you say it, I think. Lost to Tony Gravely by KO. Lost to Jamie Simmons beat Jamie Simmons by submission. Lost to Nate Maness by decision, which isn't looking too great right now. But his last fight was 5 months ago. Before that, it was about 5 months before then. So right about the time he should be fighting. But I just think Daniel Santos is going to win this one by KO. I think he's just going to walk him down. I haven't been super impressed with Johnny Munoz in general. Tapology kind of agrees with me, 80% to 20%. 20% is kind of high, especially for a guy who is an underdog in this matchup. It is a slight underdog, but I'm going to go with Daniel Santos. I'm going to go by KO. Probably second or third round. I think he's going to endure some of the shots from Johnny Munoz, and then I think he is going to hurt him very badly and win this fight by TKO in the second or third round in this matchup. Up the card, we have Joseph Holmes versus Claudio Ribeiro. Holmes 8-3, 27 years of age and 80 inches of reach. Ribeiro 10-3, 30 years of age and 77 inches of reach. Holmes will have a 3-inch reach advantage in this matchup. Holmes' his last fight was 5 months ago against Union Park, but lost by submission. Beat Alan Amadosky, which I guess good for him at that point. Lost to Jamie Pickett, which Jamie Pickett isn't a super talented guy in that division either. So you kind of have an idea where Joseph Holmes is. Alan Amadosky's not good at all, so I guess he's kind of in the middle there. That's where you kind of want to put it at. But yeah, he made his UFC debut against Jamie Pickett, lost that one. Claudio Ribeiro's last fight was a loss to Abdul Razak Al Hassan by KO. Beat Ivan Valenzuela by KO on the Contender Series. A very good KO in general. I just think Ribeiro's just going to be better in this matchup. He is 30 years old, so he's still decently young. He's still kind of entering his prime here. Holmes is still very young in general, but he did lose to Jamie Pickett. Beat Alan Amadosky again, which is, you should beat him. But I just don't trust him in this matchup. I trust Ribeiro. It has been, 3 months since that KO against Abdul Razak Al Hassan, but I think he gets it done here. Probably by KO against Joseph Holmes. I haven't been a big fan of Joseph Holmes. I don't think he's ever looked too impressive in my opinion. So I'm pretty confident in Claudio Ribeiro here. I hope he wins this one, but without a doubt, I do kind of trust him in this matchup. But if I say I trust him, he'll probably lose at this point with how my picks have been going with some of these cards. So, but I'm going to go Claudio Ribeiro by KO. Probably second round, third round, maybe. I don't know. This fight's kind of weird in general. It could go to a decision for sure. Up the card, we have Zhalgas Zhumagulov versus Rafael Estevam. Zhumagulov 14-8, 34 years of age, 66.5 inches of reach. Estevam 11-0, 26 years of age, 69 inches of reach. He will have a 2.5-inch reach advantage in this matchup. I am going to go with Rafael Estevam here. I'm not super crazy about this pick in general. This is kind of even. I guess according to Tapology, it is plus 125, minus 150 for Estevam here. I don't know the updated odds. I don't think I necessarily need to, but this is a pretty close fight. Zhumagulov has lost his last 3 or at least 4 of his last 5. His last fight was a loss to Charles Johnson, which he honestly probably should have won that fight. Lost to Jeff Molina by split decision. Lost to Manel Cap by KO. Beat Jerome Rivera by submission. And then lost to Amir Albazi, which is a pretty good prospect in the flyweight division. For Rafael Estevam, he made his UFC debut not the UFC debut, but he made his Contender Series debut against João Elias. pretty much just did really well against the submissions that Elias was giving him. Like, he was just spamming subs on this dude, and he was defending him pretty well. Did really good on the ground, and I think he's pretty solid on the feet as well. Won that fight by ground and pound. I think he does win this fight as well. 34 years of age for Zhumagulov. I mean, he's not a super young fighter. His last fight he arguably should have won. But again, he's been coming off quite a bit of losses. I think he gets this one done. I won't say by KO. I think he gets this one done by decision, 29-28. But again, this is a very close fight. I'm going to take the younger guy here. 11-0, really good momentum. Did really good in his last fight. We'll see how this one goes. I'm not too crazy about Zhumagulov at this point, but I think he does get this one done. Or Estevam gets this one done. Up the card, we have Ikram Aliskerov versus Phil Hawes. Aliskerov, 13-1, 30 years of age, 76 inches of reach. Hawes, 12-4, 34 years of age, 77.5 inches of reach. Hawes will have a 1.5 inch reach advantage in this matchup. Ikram Aliskerov in his UFC debut, or I'm sorry, Contender Series debut again. He beat Mario Souza. It was pretty competitive on the feet until he got that takedown. I believe he had like 3 takedown attempts. Finally got on the third one. Did pretty well there. Phil Hawes, before then, he was obviously what people know him as the guy that gave Khamzat Chimaev a very, very tough test in the little circuit they did. I think he was a lot younger. I don't know when this fight actually happened. Let me run through it real quick. Tapology, you need to secure your site. In case you didn't know, someone must have forgot to pay that bill. But his only loss on his record was to Khamzat Chimaev. And I believe, how old was he? 26 years old. Khamzat was 24 years old. And this was basically, he got knocked out pretty brutally. But this one was kind of known as Ikram Aliskerov defending a lot of the Khamzat Chimaev takedowns. He did pretty decent on the feet before getting KO'd as well. This was basically regarded as Chimaev's toughest test, probably until Gilbert Burns at that point. But again, just in the takedown department, he was pretty competitive in general. So that's why everyone pretty much knows him and why everyone's pretty much hyped about him in general. So Ikram Aliskerov, no joke on the ground. Phil Hawes, pretty decently underrated, I'll say. He does definitely have his flaws. His last couple fights, lost against Roman Dolidze, got his leg chewed up and then got KO'd. Eventually beat Jourdain Win, which Jourdain Win wasn't that really that good. Lost to Chris Curtis by KO. Lost to Kyle Dawkins by decision, which doesn't look good, and beat Nasruddin Imava by decision, which is actually pretty good. Did really good in the wrestling as well on the ground, which is why I think this is going to be a little bit tougher for Aliskerov. I think Phil Hawes is going to do very good early on, but I think eventually Phil Hawes will kind of tire out a little bit more. I think Ikram Aliskerov wins this one on the ground by submission, probably in the second round. I think after the first round, Phil Hawes would definitely have a lot of output. Maybe he catches Aliskerov a little bit and tries to do a little bit more, and then I think Aliskerov will eventually lands a takedown towards the end of that first round and tires him out towards the end of that, and then wins it in the second round by submission. So Tapology has this fight 18% for Hawes, 82% for Aliskerov, 57% for submission for Aliskerov. I'm going to go with that as well. Second round submission for Ikram Aliskerov in this matchup. Off the card, we have Parker Porter versus Braxton Smith. Porter, 13-8, 38 years of age, 75 inches of reach. Smith, 5-1, 33 years of age, and no reach given on Tapology. So this is what I'm going to kind of go with. I believe he is listed at 5'11 and 6 foot. It would be kind of interesting to see kind of the height difference here. Braxton Smith, only 6 bouts in his professional MMA career. And Parker Porter, I believe he took a very long layoff within his first thing. Again, Tapology, please pay your damn bill. Let's see. Chase Sherman, lost in 2014, came back in 2022, and just went on a pretty interesting run here. 4 fights in 2022, 1 in 2023. It looked pretty impressive in those fights, all by KO here. Head kick KO as well, which is a pretty brutal KO loss, or KO win, sorry. But I think Braxton Smith gets this one done. Parker Porter's last fight was against Justin Tapa. Justin Tapa definitely has decent technique and won that fight by KO. Lost to Jilton Almeida by submission, but beat Alan Bedoya by decision, beat Chase Sherman by decision, beat Josh Parisian by decision. I think Braxton Smith gets this one done by KO. 38-year-old Parker Porter, minus 190 favorite, which is very interesting. Again, just getting KO'd 2 months ago. Brutally KO'd as well. I think Braxton Smith gets this one done by KO in the first round. I think Parker Porter's there to be hit. 38 years old. He's definitely getting older. Just came off a very heavy KO. I don't necessarily know the reach advantage for him, but Braxton Smith, 77%, 23% for Porter, 90% by KO, and I agree with that one. So I'm going to take the underdog of Braxton Smith in this matchup to win against Parker Porter in the first round. Up the card, we have Marina Rodriguez versus Virna Jandiroba. Rodriguez, 16-2, 36 years of age, 65 inches of reach. Jandiroba, 18-3, 34 years of age, 64 inches of reach. Rodriguez will have a 1-inch reach advantage in this matchup. I am going to go with Marina Rodriguez. Her last few fights, a loss against Amanda Lemos. She was doing pretty well in that fight. I believe it was a fight night main event against Amanda Lemos. Got KO'd eventually. I think it was a little bit of an earlier stoppage. Very interesting stoppage, I'll say the least. But very interesting in general. Beat Jan Jourdain or Jourdain and Jan. I believe they flipped the names or whatever. I'll get used to, I guess. But beat her by split decision. Beat Mackenzie Dern by decision. Beat Michelle Watterson by decision, and beat Amanda Ribas by KO. So she's one of the upper echelon of the strawweight division in general. So for Virna Jandiroba, my goodness, beat Angela Hill by decision, lost to Amanda Ribas by decision, beat Kanako Murata by KO, and then lost to Mackenzie Dern. So I'm going to go with Marina Rodriguez. I think she's the upper echelon of the division. I think she's pretty much good everywhere. It will definitely be a little bit more competitive if it does get to the ground, but I think she'll be better on the feet. It'll be competitive on the ground. I think she'll definitely hold her own. And I trust her to win this matchup by decision. I don't think she gets a KO. I don't think she gets a finish. It's just women's MMA at that point. I just think she wins this one by decision. I think she's going to be better everywhere. So that's why I'm going to take her here. So Marina Rodriguez by decision, 36 years old, 34 years old. I don't think it'll be too big of an age gap in general. So I'm going to go with Marina Rodriguez. Up the card, we have Khaos Williams versus Rolando Bedoya. Williams, 13-3, 29 years of age, 77 inches of reach. Bedoya, 14-1, 75 inches of reach. No age listed on Tapology. And will have a 2-inch reach disadvantage against Khaos Williams. I am going to go with Khaos Williams. How unfortunate is it to have a UFC debut against Khaos Williams? Rolando Bedoya is a pretty solid prospect in general. This is very unfortunate. Hasn't fought in a year and a month. Khaos Williams has been off for like 11 months, but he is making his debut. I thought he beat Randy Brown too. I think I was at that fight, but I thought he beat Randy Brown, beat Miguel Beza by KO, and then ended up winning against Matthew Semmelsberger by decision. Again, Rolando Bedoya making his debut against Khaos Williams in front of a crowd. I mean, this just spells disaster for him. I'm going to go with Williams here. Maybe after this fight, Bedoya can figure something out, but who knows at this point? We saw Ferreira beat or knock out Royed Obama, so who knows? Or Gregory Rodriguez. I just thought Royed Obama in my head because I forgot his name for a second, but Gregory Rodriguez off a debut when I thought for sure Gregory Rodriguez was going to win that fight. So who knows at this point? But I'm going to go Khaos Williams, especially with how these cards are going, with all the underdogs being picked, or at least winning recently. And we'll see how this one goes. I'm going to go with Khaos Williams for sure. I'm pretty confident in it. 87% of Tapology agrees, 83% by KO. I think he gets this one done in like the second round. But Bedoya definitely kind of has a chance, I guess. But I'm pretty confident in Khaos Williams for sure. Up the card, we have Devin Clark versus Kennedy Nzechukwu. Got it right the first time. Clark, 14-7, 33 years of age, 75 inches of reach. And Nzechukwu, 11-3, 30 years of age, and 83 inches of reach. Nzechukwu will have a 8-inch reach advantage in this matchup. I am going to go, well, actually, Devin Clark coming off of his last few matchups, a win over Dion Young, which I thought he was going to lose. So pretty impressive win there. Lost against Asmat Mirzakana by KO. Beat William Knight by KO, which thank God. Lost to Ian Kutalaba by decision, which is a little rough. And lost to Anthony Smith by an by triangle choke. For Kennedy Nzechukwu, beat Ian Kutalaba. Beat Carl Robertson by KO. Lost to Nikolai Ngumirianu, which is a very interesting decision, a very weird matchup in general, just based on what happened with the deductions and the decision. I've lost to Don Young by KO and then beat Danilo Marquez as well. I am going to go Kennedy Nzechukwu. I think he's going to be longer. He's a much bigger fighter here. I trust him to win this fight, keep it at range, and basically just tap out him on the feet. I think he can kind of avoid some of the takedowns of Devin Clark and just avoid some of those bad positions. But I think he just does more on the feet here and wins this fight. People are saying by KO. I can see this one happening. I can see Nzechukwu KOing him towards the end of the fight, like a TKO in the third round. Maybe Devin Clark starts to tire out a little bit, and maybe Nzechukwu just using his range in general, just tire out Devin Clark in general, and basically just force him and just beat him into losing that matchup. So I'll see Nzechukwu by third round TKO in this matchup. I think he does get it done. 84% for Nzechukwu in this matchup and 16% for Devin Clark. So yeah, I'm going to go Nzechukwu third round TKO. Up the card to our prelim main event, the headliner of the entire prelims, we have Dober versus Matt Frevola, an amazing matchup. I'm super excited for it. This is perfect matchup to headline the prelims, let's be real. Dober 26-11, 34 years of age, 70 inches of reach. Frevola 10-3, 32 years of age, 71 inches of reach. Frevola will be at a 1-inch reach advantage in this matchup. Dober, last few matches, went over Bobby Green with the left hook. Bobby Green was doing decent in there, and you just caught him and put him out. It's a very impressive win, especially against a guy like Bobby Green. Beat Rafael Alves in a pretty fun fight in that matchup as well. Beat Terrence McKinney, I believe, in the first round, I want to say, first or second round in that matchup. Looked pretty impressive there. Terrence McKinney pretty much starched Matt Frevola in like 5 seconds. Yeah, TKO, ground and pound, 5 seconds. Pretty brutal loss in general. Lost to Brad Riddell, and then lost to Islam Makhachev. I believe both of these guys were on the same card. It was like the Adesanya Vittori card, but beat Ataman Zaitar in his last matchup by KO. Pretty fun fight there as well. I thought Zaitar was going to catch Frevola, but Frevola looked really nice in that matchup. And then he did beat Gennaro Valdez before then by KO. So, and then, of course, lost to Terrence McKinney by KO early on, and then lost to Arman Sarukian by decision. I'm going to go with Dober. I trust his durability more in this matchup. I trust his chin. Matt Frevola is pretty good on the feet. He's very scrappy. But I think in general, losing 5 seconds into Terrence McKinney, and you kind of question a little bit of the durability against Frevola with some of these heavy hitters. I think Frevola is going to land on Dober, and Dober is just going to tank it. He's going to be ready for him. And I think eventually he's just going to end up catching Frevola in like the late second or third round and win the fight that way. I think this is going to be a really fun fight in general. It's perfect to headline the prelims. It's going to get a lot of people to buy the card and tune into the main card, especially at the start of the main card with the fight there. But 92% for Dober on this, which is pretty impressive. This is actually a pretty big spread here. 92% for on Tapology for Dober in this matchup. 84% by KO. I think he does get it done by KO as well. This should be a really fun matchup. I'm really looking forward to it. But yeah, I'm going to go Dober. Late second round, not early third round, but maybe third round TKO in this matchup. Up the card to the start of the main card, actually, we have Kron Gracie versus Charles Jourdain, however you say it. Gracie 5-1, 34 years of age, 70 inches of reach. Jourdain 13-6, 27 years of age and 69 inches of reach. Gracie will have a 1-inch reach advantage in this matchup. I am going to go with Charles Jourdain in this matchup. I don't know what Kron Gracie's going to look like when he comes back. He's almost 35 years old. He's been off for 3.5 years at this point. Like, what do we expect from Kron Gracie? I tried to look at his Instagram, see what happened. He rarely posts, and there's like no updates there of what he's looking like now and how he's fighting now. Charles Jourdain coming off a loss against Nathaniel Wood, coming off a loss to Shane Burgos, which was a pretty interesting matchup in general. It was pretty controversial. Kind of could go either way, I guess. I think a lot of people thought Jourdain won in that matchup. It was a very tricky, very interesting matchup. Lando Benatti beat him there pretty handily in that matchup as well. Kind of embarrassed him too by pantsing him at the end. But Andre Ewell, he beat him by decision as well. I'm going to go with Charles Jourdain. I think I'm just going to switch between last name. Whatever rolls off the tongue better. But I am going to go Jourdain in this matchup. I think he's going to decently defend the takedowns here. I think he's good at defending the takedowns. Once he gets down to the ground, he's able to get right back up. Gracie, of course, is going to be good on the ground. Does have kind of like a boxing style, I'll say. But again, I just don't know. I just don't know what Kron Gracie's going to look like. I trust Jourdain in this matchup. I think he's going to work the body. I think he's just going to mix it in everywhere. He's obviously not going to go for a takedown, but I think he's going to show the boxing against Kron Gracie. I think eventually he's just going to tire him out with some of the body shots, and I think he finishes them in like the second or third round in this matchup by TKO. 31% for Gracie, 69% for Jourdain in this matchup, 57% for Jourdain is going to say by KO in this matchup. I agree. I think he does get this one by KO in the late second or third round. Again, there's a lot of these where it's like a KO in the first or KO in the second or third round, but that's how I kind of see it. I think he just eventually wears on Kron Gracie. I think this is going to be an amazing fight as well. So really looking forward to this one. Up the card, you have Movsar Evloev versus Bryce Mitchell. Evloev, 16-0, 29 years of age, 72.5 inches of reach. Mitchell, 15-1, 28 years of age, 70 inches of reach. Evloev will have a 2.5-inch reach advantage in this matchup. I believe Evloev is coming in on short notice. I believe this was supposed to be Jonathan Pierce versus Bryce Mitchell, which was going to be an interesting matchup anyways. But again, we get this matchup again. I believe this was supposed to be scheduled for, I don't know the exact date, but it was supposed to be scheduled before this last year, actually. Movsar ended up pulling out. There's this big thing, like who's going to step in for Bryce Mitchell. They just, of course, Ilya Topuria was supposed to fight Barboza. Barboza kind of pulled out as well, so they're both freed up. And then they fought on the December card, I want to say, before the end of the year, and then Topuria just ran through him. So Evloev, 10 months ago, beat Dan Ige, looked decently impressive there. Dan Ige is a pretty good fighter. Hakeem Dawodu won that one. It was pretty competitive, though. Beat Nick Lentz by split decision. Bryce Mitchell lost to Ilya Topuria. Did not look too great in that matchup, I'm going to be completely honest. Kind of confirms how I would have thought I would have seen this fight in general last year at least, but obviously Topuria is a beast. Edson Barboza beat him by decision, beat Andre Philly by decision, and beat Charles Rosa by decision. So for this one, I'm going to go with Movsar Evloev. Movsar Evloev by decision in this matchup. I think he just does a lot better on the feet in general than Bryce Mitchell. I think Bryce Mitchell, a lot of the times, especially you saw in that Barboza fight, he uses the takedowns and the wrestling to kind of set up his striking. And I think with Evloev being super strong, having really good wrestling in general, I think he's going to be able to defend some of the takedowns and not have to worry about the takedowns like a Bryce Mitchell would inflict on his opponent. And I think this is going to be very tricky for Bryce Mitchell. I think Evloev's going to do a lot better on the feet. And I think he just outpoints him in general. I think Mitchell maybe steals around, so maybe a 29-28 decision for Evloev in this matchup. But again, Tapology agrees with me as well in this one. 81% for Evloev and 19% for Bryce Mitchell. 84% by decision. I agree with that one as well. I think he does win this one. I think it is somewhat of a closer decision. These guys are a little bit more patient on the feet, but maybe they go after it. Who knows? I know Bryce Mitchell, after that last fight, I think he really wants to win in this matchup. He's a plus 210 underdog, which is very interesting as well. We'll see how the betting lines kind of move after him being a plus 200 underdog, which I think is wild in this matchup. But I do think Movsar Evloev does have the better striking, better stand-up, and I don't think he really necessarily uses it off of his wrestling in general. I think he just has a good base. I believe he does train at American Top Team. I will say I think he partially trains at American Top Team, trains at Tiger Muay Thai, which is a good gym. But I do think he gets this one done by a decision over Bryce Mitchell in this matchup. Up the card, we have Jessica Andrade versus Jourdain Yan, is how they say it. Now, Andrade, 24-10, 31 years of age, 62 inches of reach. Yan, 16-3, 33 years of age and 63 inches of reach. Yan will have a 1-inch reach advantage in this matchup. I'm going to go with Jessica Andrade. There's not too much to say about this fight. I think she's just going to be better on the ground. Obviously, she's pretty solid on the feet. Jourdain Yan, which is how you say it now. I'm working on it. They reversed all the names, but Jourdain Yan, I think is pretty good on the feet. I think it's gonna be pretty competitive on the feet if it stays there. But I think Andrade should look to try and get this one to the ground. I think that's where she wins this fight. I think Mackenzie Dern had a lot of good and a lot of success on the ground in general in their main event fight night, which we had a lot of those main event fight night women's fights, which were amazing last year. We're starting to get a couple of them this year too, which is wonderful. But Andrade just lost one too against Aaron Blanchfield, but Andrade is pretty solid on the feet. Good technique from both of these ladies in this division. I just think Andrade just mixes in the takedowns with her striking. I think she's better all around in this one than Jourdain Yan. I think obviously Jourdain Yan, you could probably argue that she's probably better on the feet. But I do think Andrade gets this one done by a decision. 83% of Tapology agrees with me. 44% by KO, which is very interesting. I don't think she gets the KO in this matchup, but I do see it by decision. Minus 195 favorite. I think that's probably about right. So I'm gonna go Andrade. She mixes in the wrestling with her stand-up. It's just gonna be one of these fights. We'll see how this one goes. Up the card, we have Belal Muhammad versus Gilbert Burns. Muhammad, 22-3, 34 years of age, 72 inches of reach. Burns, 22-5, 36 years of age, and 71 inches of reach. Muhammad will have a 1-inch reach advantage in this matchup. Belal Muhammad's last few matchups, he's won over Sean Brady by KO, beat Vicente Luque by decision, beat Stephen Thompson or Wonder Boy Thompson by decision, beat Damian Maia by decision, and lost to Leon Edwards by an eye poke. Pretty much no contest. Gilbert Burns beat Jorge Masvidal in his last matchup 2 weeks ago. Beat Lil Magny 2 months ago. Lost to Khamzat Chimaev. A lot of people thought he won that fight. I thought Khamzat won that fight, but it was a pretty close fight. Pretty fun fight in general. Beat Wonder Boy Thompson as well. And then lost to Kamaru Usman by a jab to ground and pound, which was... We just don't... I'm not going to lie. That fight against Kamaru Usman for Gilbert Burns kind of put a bad taste in my mouth, and I've kind of just underrated Gilbert Burns his entire career up until this point. For Gilbert Burns, this is his third fight this year. He's been super active, looking to be super active in general because he's going to have to fight for that title spot. And I think if he does beat Belal Muhammad, he definitely gets it. And same thing with Belal Muhammad. They're probably going to have to wait after Colby Covington in general, but they obviously need to start at welterweight. They're looking at Leon Edwards like, bro, I don't know if we can trust you. If you beat Colby Covington, you get the star power or whatever star power is there. You get the popularity. You can build that fight. Puts more on Leon. Well, I'm not going to talk about the championship. We're going to talk about this fight. So for this one, I'm going to go with Gilbert Burns. I think he's going to be pretty much better everywhere in this fight. Obviously, other than the wrestling department, I think Belal Muhammad's a better wrestler. He's a big dude too. I think he's definitely cutting quite a bit of weight. I don't know if he's cutting over 215 pounds for this fight. I think that's wild. Not cutting 215 pounds, but cutting from 215 pounds. I think he said is like 10. He's 12 pounds away from like last week at least, I think he said. So he's definitely on his way to making weight. Gilbert Burns been pretty active this year. 3 fights this year. Has looked super impressive in all of them. Beat Neil Magny probably without taking any damage. Jorge Masvidal beat him as well. Belal Muhammad's last fight was, 6 months ago at this point against Sean Brady. Gilbert Burns being super active. Belal Muhammad taking this on short notice in a 5-round fight as well. I'm going to go with Gilbert Burns. He's going to be stronger on the feet. I think he's going to be faster. I think he's going to be more powerful. I think he has better form, better stand-up, better technique on the feet as well. And I think on the ground, if Belal Muhammad takes it to the ground, Gilbert Burns has really good jiu-jitsu. Maybe he just sits in his guard and just tries not to take any chances or whatever. But Gilbert Burns is a very strong dude. We saw him in the Khamzat fight, just like he's tired of just like not really playing the game in general. I think he's just going to rush out there and just try and kill. Not kill Belal Muhammad, but knock out Belal Muhammad in this matchup. I think he does rush out there. I think he tries to finish this one early. I think he knows that he's probably going to be better later on and maybe just tries to get Belal Muhammad in this fight. I don't know. I can just see him KOing and TKOing Belal Muhammad early on in this matchup, probably around 2nd or 3rd round in general by TKO. I think he just ends up catching Belal. I think Belal is going to be really skittish everywhere. Gilbert Burns, a very strong dude. I'm not going to get into all that stuff. Belal Muhammad, I think he's definitely... I won't get on it. I was going to say Belal Muhammad, I think he's on the sauce. I think Gilbert Burns on the... Or at least he almost admitted to being on the sauce in general. But I think Gilbert Burns is just going to be stronger. He's going to be more powerful on the feet. I think Belal Muhammad is going to be a little skittish to shoot in for some of those takedowns. I think Gilbert Burns is going to be fast as well. I think he gets it done on the feet by TKO. 36% for Muhammad, 64% by Burns. I think he's also been a more active fighter too. So... after Ramadan, especially for Belal Muhammad, it's a little rough for him. 34% by KO for Burns here, according to Tapology, and 47% by decision, 12% by submission as well. So I'm going to go KO. I think he gets it done in the 2nd or 3rd round. Belal Muhammad is good, but there is some questions about his chin a little bit more, especially with some of the power punches. Vicente Luque caught him, but again, Luque was more worried about the takedowns in general. Belal Muhammad kind of just held Wonderboy Thompson to the ground there. And Sean Brady was kind of doing really well on the feet until he just got caught. I don't know how good Sean Brady's chin is in general, but I think Gilbert Burns gets this one done for sure. I think he ends up catching Belal Muhammad in the 2nd or 3rd round and finishes him off. And I think Gilbert Burns is the next in line after Colby Covington for that title shot. So we'll see what happens here. I think Gilbert Burns wins. He's going to be more prepared for this matchup, been more active. He's going to be better in 5 rounds. I think he gets this one done. Up the card to our main event of the evening, we have Aljamain Sterling versus Henry Cejudo. Sterling 22-3, 33 years of age, 71 inches of reach. Cejudo 16-2, 36 years of age, 67.5 inches of reach. Sterling will have a 3.5-inch reach advantage in this matchup. I am going to go with, actually, I'm not going to go with anyone yet. We have Aljamain Sterling. His last fight was a win over TJ Dillashaw by KO, ground and pound. Before then, Jourdain by split decision, a legal knee, which was a very rough one in general. Corey Sandhagen beat him pretty impressively by rear naked choke and then beat Pedro Munoz by a decision. For Henry Cejudo's last fight was about 3 years ago against Dominic Cruz, which was a kind of iffy stoppage, but he was winning that fight pretty well. It was getting a little bit more competitive in the second round, but he did end up catching Dominic Cruz with a knee there. But Marlon Moraes beat him by KO, beat Dillashaw by KO, beat Demetrius Johnson by split decision, which I thought DJ won that fight, and then beat Sergio Pettis by decision there. But the weird thing with this matchup, especially in general, I don't want to like shit on Aljamain Sterling too much here, but I think you can kind of say that leading up to this fight, that all these wins in general, TJ Dillashaw, that fight, his shoulder was screwed up in that matchup. Like, I don't want to say it's fluky because some of these are not Aljamain Sterling's fault. I think the majority of them are not Aljamain Sterling's fault. But his wins have been kind of iffy. Like, TJ Dillashaw's shoulder popped out before the fight. Like, he just had a dislocated shoulder before the fight and in the fight, which is not his fault. But it kind of does diminish his win in general. Jourdain by split decision, his corner couldn't make it due to, like, visa issues or whatever. And then before then, the illegal knee by Jourdain, which isn't necessarily his fault either. None of these were his fault. You can pretty much say none of these were his fault, but it does kind of diminish the win that he does have there. For Henry Cejudo, he's coming off 3 years, so we have a very interesting matchup. These guys are both pretty skilled wrestlers and grapplers. We'll see how this one goes. I think Henry Cejudo is going to be better on the feet in general. I think he's going to be a little bit more powerful. He's going to be way smaller, 5'4", 5'7". Aljamain Sterling's a pretty big dude as well. I believe he cuts a lot of weight as well. Also, he's like 170 outside of camp, and he looks shredded at like 170 as well. So he's cutting a lot of weight. Henry Cejudo is a pretty big small dude, I'll say, for 5'4". He's a pretty big dude. He looks in incredible shape right now. He is 36 years old though, and Aljamain Sterling is still in his prime, 33 years of age, almost 34. I'm going to go with Aljamain Sterling. He's going to have a reach advantage as well. On the feet, though, I think I am a little worried for Aljamain Sterling. This is a 50-50 matchup, by the way, but Henry Cejudo coming off such a long layoff for 3 years, 36 years old too, no longer really in his prime. I am a little worried here. I think if you're Henry Cejudo, you kind of just want to keep this one on the feet if you want to win this matchup. I think he's going to be a little bit more powerful. I think he's going to be better on the feet in general. And I think he does win early on in this matchup. Aljamain Sterling, I think, will be better on the ground. I'm just going to be completely honest. If Henry Cejudo goes for takedowns, I think Aljamain Sterling is going to be faster, and I think he's going to be a little bit stronger to maneuver against Henry Cejudo in this matchup. I think he's going to be doing a little bit better on the ground, especially if Cejudo does shoot him for a takedown. I think the scrambles are going to be a little interesting here. I think Sterling does end up winning those scrambles later on in the fight. I think Cejudo does win pretty early on. I think maybe he hurts Sterling early on and maybe goes for a finish, and then second round kind of calms down a little bit, wins that round, and I think eventually he does kind of tire out a little bit more, and I think Sterling does go in for takedowns, eventually gets them, and then does get the back of Cejudo or does get some good top control and just pounds away on him. He literally just needs to take the back for a round. Although Cejudo is like a smaller guy, he is a thicker, smaller guy. It does sound kind of weird when you say it, but he's a thicker guy, even though he's 5'4". So it hit his, depending on, I guess I kind of just have to see it in general, but maybe he's going to be able to get out of like a body triangle a little bit easier than someone else. But I think in general, Sterling's going to end up just taking the back a couple times in a couple of these rounds, and I think he ends up winning. Establishing top control. He's a really big dude as well. I think, especially on the ground, with Henry Cejudo not being there as active, especially 3 years ago was his last fight. I think, again, Aljamain Sterling's decently active. 5 months ago was the last fight, a year before then, and I think he had like some kind of neck injury before then. He's going to be faster, stronger on the ground, and I think he gets this one done. Cejudo, I think, will be a little bit slower. I don't think he's going to be too slow, but he's going to be a little bit slower, obviously. In the meantime, while Cejudo's been off, he's been coaching Yuri Prochazka before his Glover Teixeira fight, which he did all right in with some of the scrambles and whatever. He ended up winning the fight by rear naked choke. So take that with what you will. Trained John Jones a little bit before his fight, before Cyril Gane. Trained Weili Zhang. So he's trained some really good fighters. They gone on to win those fights. I think in general, Weili Zhang, I think, lost to Rose Namajunas in that second fight. But in general, Cejudo's just been obviously being a coach in his off time. So honestly, you don't really know what Cejudo's going to look like. All I can say is that 3 years off, 36 years of age, and Aljamain Sterling is in the prime of his career. Looks really good on the ground. Obviously, he's all right on the feet. He's not anything great. I think he is hittable on the feet for sure, and I can just see Cejudo catching him early on, but I just think Aljamain Sterling is just going to be more conditioned. I know Cejudo is going to be in shape and everything here, but I think he's going to be more conditioned for 5 rounds, especially recently since he's been I wouldn't say super active, but he's been relatively active as a bantamweight champion for his division. So I'm going to go with Sterling. He's 46% in this matchup. I got Sterling by decision in this one. It's going to be 50-50. I can see it going to Cejudo for sure. I was kind of thinking about taking Cejudo in this matchup, but I think Sterling's just going to be better on the ground. I think I trust him a little bit more than Cejudo in this matchup, especially coming off of a little bit longer of a layoff, 36 years of age. I trust Sterling more in this matchup. So I'm going to go Sterling by decision, 48-47 in this matchup, maybe split decision. But I trust Aljamain Sterling in this matchup to get the dub. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know who you guys think wins in the co-main and the main event of this entire card. And I'll see you guys next time.